So we stopped around, I think, middle of the chapter. So let me see where we actually stop. Okay, the internet is a bit slow on my side, I think. I hope you can hear properly. Can you listen clearly? Okay, because I've seen my video is a bit lagging, so it's a bit slow. Okay, I hope you managed to read some of these things. Okay, I just want to, probably I didn't explain this bullwhip effect last week. I hope you have read a little bit about it. Because when we actually try to manage supply chain, you know, people from the raw material supplier, from the retailer to the distributor to the manufacturer, there'll be orders, okay, because ordering will happen. So this is what we call as bullwhip effect. Bullwhip effect occurs when orders are sent out. Sent out means I order to the distributor, and then the distributor order from the manufacturer. Manufacturer have to buy the materials. So when orders are relayed through the supply chain, each of the players try to protect by increasing the quantity. So it is actually not the actual demand that is going to be requested, but it's called a bullwhip effect. That means you increase the quantity as you go along the different partners in the supply chain. Okay, so that is costly. Costly means you need to keep inventory if there is excess stock which is not needed for the next process or the next step. Okay, so this is what we call as the bullwhip effect in all supply chains. It happens. It happens in all supply chains. Okay, that's one thing that probably I need to emphasize to you. And managing integrated supply chain will, because there is a lot of lack of coordination, you need information. Accurate pool data is needed, and that information must be shared with all the the agents in the supply chain. Okay, that's one thing that is important. And also there are opportunities for trying to reduce the lot sizes, because we don't want to just ship according to bulk quantity or according to the container size. Container size full container, but if you try to ship out the whole volume of the container, probably you will result into the other party trying to keep the stock, the inventory. Okay, so you don't want to you try to have lot size reduction so that you economize, you optimize quantity. So we'll have next chapter, which is inventory control. I'll introduce you to some models that can be used for determining lot sizes. Okay, and all other things, vendor managed inventory by one particular company to coordinate the supply. Okay, this is quite popular in automotive industry, vendor managed inventory. Okay, again, the opportunities for having good data, good accurate information through collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment system throughout the supply chain. So all the players must not be secretive. If every player try to be protective or too protective of their own system, then it will not be able to be efficient. Okay, at the end of the day, the supply chain will be very, very slow, right from the the cycle of material, right from the raw material until the end product, must be shortened, must be as fast as possible. Okay, so I hope you know, these are things that can be done. Okay, so the next thing that I want to explain to you is about how to build a supply base. It's a very important topic about, you know, supply evaluation, supplier development, and how to ensure that you actually have good suppliers. Okay, the most important thing is how to have good suppliers. So the first most important aspect is supply evaluation. Before you actually, you need to find, you need to select, you need to determine who is going to be your suppliers. Okay, so we call that supplier evaluation. There are many bases for suppliers evaluation. There are evaluation based on financial standing, based on quality performance, based on delivery performance. Okay, so you need to find potential suppliers, and some companies they audit. They actually have you know, assessment of potential suppliers, and sometimes the manufacturers or the companies that actually seek the suppliers will look for supplier certification. You know, you have ISO 9000 today, right? ISO 9000 certification. So if the company has ISO 9000 certification, probably that is a good starting point, good indicator for selecting the suppliers. Okay, so that is because when you have such qualification, you need to have these processes of qualification, and also to actually train and educate the suppliers right until certification. You know, there are big consultancy companies doing this certification. Okay, so you can use ISO 9000 certification and call to actually select the suppliers. Well, in ISO 9000, there is a requirement that you need to have accredited supplier list. That means the company will have to have the suppliers that has been accepted and also used to supply materials or parts to be in a list. Okay, approved list basically. If in ISO 9000, if you don't, if you fail to actually use the suppliers in the list, you use suppliers which are not in the list, you may be, when audited, okay, when audited, you may be presented with non-conformance. You do not follow the procedures actually. Okay, what are the things that is actually important in building the supplier base, in supplier development? Okay, so you have evaluation. Now, when for example, you have set suppliers that are actually doing business with you, so you need to develop these suppliers. You need to bring them into the long-term relationship. Like Japanese, you know, they have Keiretsu system. They have, you need to integrate supplier into the system. You understand? You need to actually bring them into the company's way of doing business. For example, Toyota production system. Why Toyota successful is because all suppliers must implement TPS. Basic, simple. If you do not implement TPS, Toyota production system, or some books call it JIT system, you know, JIT, but it's just actually just in time. Okay, just in time. It's actually TPS, Toyota production system. So what the reason is because it is actually trying to develop suppliers. Develop. So you integrate into the supply into the system. You tell them what is the quality requirement. You present to them, these are the product specification. You give them the drawings. You give them the product samples. You give them the color standards. You give them every information required about the product. That is, they need to understand that. Then they need to understand the schedules and delivery system. How do they actually, is it confirm weekly orders, okay, or confirm monthly orders, and according to daily schedules and delivery? Because when you talk about JIT, it's not daily, it's to the hour, to the hour or to the minute. That means if you need to supply the seed to production line A at 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. for that matter, it must, So you need to build up this, all these small things, okay? Also, suppliers need to know about their procurement policies, payment, delivery, okay? And so on, okay? And to integrate the supplier, you also probably provide training. So suppliers must not be treated as your enemy, because previously we have this upper hand rule, upper hand power. I'm your, you supply to me, so you follow whatever.
Yeah.
So that is old thinking. Old thinking. Old thinking is I'm powerful. You want business with me, you follow me. You follow my rules. There must be long-term partnership. Okay, so the Japanese talk about partnership. Okay, I think there is this discussion later on. Supplier partnership. How do you build supplier partnership? So you have to have training, you have engineering and production assistance, help. It's really assistance. Okay. When I was working in Proton, in automotive, whenever there is a supplier having some difficulties, for example, they do not know how to set up their QC system. So we, Proton engineers, will have to go to the company and help them set up the QC system. Where is the receiving inspection? How is this inspection procedure? So this is assistance, okay? And information transfer procedure. So this is a big area on supplier development. It is very critical, very important that, service providers or manufacturers take upon this responsibility to, go beyond and assist them. Because it's to your own interest, it's your own advantage. If you have good suppliers, what would happen to your end products? Nian, what would happen if you have good suppliers? What would happen? What do you think will affect on your final products? Good products. Jacob, what will happen?
Quality is very good.
Exactly, very good. Good quality products will result from having excellent suppliers. So it is to your interest. So take effort. Okay, when you talk about this so-called price, especially price negotiation, you need to negotiate with suppliers or with your partners, okay? The pricing model, okay? It is a significant element in purchasing. When you talk about purchasing, I think probably some of you probably have experience as well. It is difficult, but it's very important. Because you want to ask the, the seller to give you a good price, okay? And if you have a very, skillful negotiation skills, you will be very, very valuable, okay? Valuable. Those who have these negotiation skills is going to be very valuable, okay? So there are three kinds of negotiation strategies that is actually used by purchasers, okay, purchasing. One is the so-called cost-based price model, okay? Cost-based price model based on what the supplier offer to you. And I think it's it says that supplier open its books to the purchaser, and then the contract price based on the time, the material, or whatever components that actually has been assumed, okay? And if there is fluctuation in terms of the material, then there will be some compensation, or there is escape clause for that, okay? So as cost-based price model. Cost-based price model, So any escalation will be accommodated. Any changes will be accommodated. There is also the market-based price model. That means when you buy no components or materials from your suppliers, so the market base is based on published, auction, or index prices, okay, based on what the market actually has determined. This is actually in commodity. That's why it's called the commodity market. Commodity future markets for metal, okay, for rubber also, for So this is market based, or even oil, okay, market based price model. You cannot. You can hedge for the future. You can hedge. You can actually buy for the future. Okay, and there is the method. The other method is competitive bidding. This is the most popular, actually. Most popular. You bid for the price that is actually offered by other companies. Okay. Of course, this says that it does not foster long-term relationship. Okay, it does not, because it's competitive bidding. Competitive bidding. What else? It's open tender lah, basically. What do you know about competitive bidding? Yaakob, have you heard of competitive bidding? Tender-based pricing.
Competitive bidding.
Bidding. You bid for the...
Oh, yes, yes, bidding.
Price.
Yes, we have, like in our country, we have the tea market, and there is tea auction. Only one action is in a city that is called Chittagong. There is a bidding system to buy the tea.
Yeah, okay.
There are some customers, they have to bid the price.
There's
Who
auction.
will be the, yeah, right,
auction.
that is auction. Yes, in tea market.
Yeah.
There's competitive bidding.
Yeah, another way of bidding is actually by the company. For example, I open the tender for companies to supply tires to Proton.
Okay.
Okay.
So yes.
So there is also
we have this system also. We buy with this is following this system.
Yeah, there is also no. So the person who actually negotiate this this purchasing, okay, will require must be skillful in negotiation. Okay. So this is also part of building the supply base. Of course, there are also contracting issues. Contract, that means you actually you have to develop contracts with the suppliers, what kind of arrangement and so on. So this, you need to share the risk and so on. Okay. There are also methods of centralized purchasing. Centralized purchasing means, the organization will have all the orders being done by one particular what they call department, or one particular unit, okay, or one agency. So this is also another way of actually, purchasing being done through this method, okay, centralized purchasing. Right. Big companies, Nestle, or even World Health Organization, WHO, also have centralized purchasing. Right. Okay, recently, when we talk about purchasing, we are fortunate that we actually now, you can buy through what they call internet-based, electronic e-procurement. Malaysian government and some other governments are also trying to use the internet as a base. I mean, using through computers, right? So have a system, the database, and everything is online. So this will speed up purchasing and also reduce costs, because you do it online rather than the current system in which you do it on paper. Currently, you have to issue purchase order, PR, purchase requisition, and then purchase order, send the order to the seller. Okay, so this takes longer time. So by using e-procurement, it is also centralized, but that is electronic based. you will definitely reduce costs and you are able to integrate your supply chain. Okay. And that's why there are many, online catalogs and exchanges that actually have, electronic industry, they have online catalogs. There are industry-specific websites. They can buy standard items, can buy it from the, internet, okay? Or online auctions. So you can use on the system. I haven't seen online auction, but there are this kind of system that is being used for electronic procurement. Okay. Well, today also when you talk about for buyers like us, we can, there are a lot of opportunity for us to buy online also. Okay, but this is for bulk buying or for companies actually. Right. Any questions about building a supplier base or supplier development and supplier assessment and all these things? Okay. So in supply chain, suppliers are key to the success as well. Okay, another big area in supply chain is logistics management. Okay. So previously when we, this is quite current, quite recent, where it comes into operations management, logistics management, supply chain management, okay. So when we try to make our supply chain efficient, okay, we need to also think about logistics. What's logistics? Give me an example of, activities.
Of logistics?
Exactly, yeah, in logistics, okay.
Yes.
Example.
That is like transportation.
Exactly, okay, transportation.
For, yeah.
Okay, basically transportation.
Material, yeah, all right.
So because you, right until now, we have been talking about from the cycle of material, from raw material to manufacturer. But during these stages, when you want to reach to the customers, so for example, cars need to be transported to the point of purchase. You cannot just ask the customer to go to the factory and buy the car. You can't, okay. So there are trucks that actually loads cars and send it to different countries, different parts of the country, different places. Or even you can use, for example, Japan. How do you think Japan or even countries that, China, for example, produce cars, completed cars, how are they going to send it to Malaysia? Again, I repeat the question.
Airplane.
Aeroplane? Honto? Honto ni? Dekiru?
I don't know.
ちょっと無理でしょ。ちょっと you can, but it is not economic. Okay, okay. 多分できるでも not economic. So they have vessels,
yes,
ships. They call it roll on, roll off. You drive the vehicle on the bottom of the ship. Okay, on the, I forgot the name, but it's using the ship to bring it to the port to port. Okay.
Port to port, yes.
Port to port. Then from port, another logistics is required. So the objectives is to obtain efficient operation through the integration of all material acquisition, movement, and storage activities. I would say it is actually movement of the inventory, the materials that is required. Okay. And it is actually outsourced. Most companies, they outsource their logistics. They don't, unless you are a big, company, do you have your own fleet of trucks, and so on. So you want to make sure that you'll be competitive by having good logistics actually. Okay. So what kind of system that actually be used in logistics? In logistics, you use trucking. That means you move vast majority of manufactured goods. It is not popular. I don't know. In Malaysia, it's very popular. Okay, sorry. In Malaysia, very popular. Trucking. Okay. Loads of materials are actually being moved from one point to another. The chief advantage is actually flexibility. It is flexible. That's why you can transport containers of materials. You can, well, in Malaysia, we also use trucks to transport live animals. Okay, live animals are transported in trucks. You know live animals?
Yes.
Okay, like, you know, chicken are actually, that's not allowed actually in some countries, okay?
Livestock.
Okay, livestock, including, you know, like cattle, cows, okay?
Yes.
Okay, that's one. Another way is railroads. I think, you know, railroads is also capable of carrying large loads, but it is not that widely used in Malaysia. I do not know about Japan, but I know in States, in US, or even in Europe, it's quite widely used, okay? But it is little flexibility because it only uses containers or even how do you call, liquid or even gases. They have tanks, okay? Tanks and actually transport between the stations, okay? Let me just, okay. You know, for example, in the US, they employ 235,000 people and ship 40% of the 40% of ton miles of all commodities, including 93% of coal, 57% of cereal grain, and so on. Okay, so these are actually being being used. Air freight, no, like you say, airplane. It is actually for light loads. Okay, for semiconductor products, for plastic products, for, you know, during this COVID, we import a lot of masks, surgical masks for, you know, we import from China, okay. So it uses air freight, cargo planes, okay. Maybe, you know, it may be a bit expensive, okay, but you have, but if the product is high volume, very cheap, you can still keep the cost. Or even there are waterways. So you can think of, you know, depending on the geography of the country, actually, depending on the geography. I think last week I mentioned about, you know, the land travel able now from China to Europe. You know, if you use the land, okay, there is a One Belt Road initiative. Is it One Belt, One Road for China project, you know, to connect to Europe. Okay, so that is also trying to reduce dependence on air freight, because now in COVID, we are, you know, reduced air freight because of our current, you know, situation. So the best alternative is actually to use land, road, trucks, or even rail. Okay, rail, or even waterways, or what they call rivers, to actually transport, you know, products from one place to another place, from point to another point. Okay, so these are also pipelines for transporting oil, gas. There is no way of other, you know, there are pipelines between one country to another country, you know, transporting oil, especially oil producing countries in the Middle East. So they use pipelines to transport oil, gas, and chemical products. But basically, most of the products and also supply chains are multimodal. They combine various shipping methods. There is no one way, one particular way of shipping, but it is actually integrated multiple methods to actually transport or ship out our different kinds of products or even materials. Okay. Right, the cost and the speed of shipments, faster shipping is generally more expensive than slower shipping. Of course, you pay for the slower shipping means it is actually stopping in a lot of ports, but rather than faster shipping. Okay, of course, you have to pay for higher freight costs for faster shipping. Okay, and in this case, also faster methods involve smaller shipment sizes. That's why you see container ships which are huge. There are cases of container ships which actually sunk into the ocean, okay, because of the stacks of containers is huge, okay, because it involves very large shipment. Obviously, it's going to be slower because of the speed of the the transport, okay. So there is a relationship between cost and speed of shipments. For example, air freight is more costlier than sea transport. Okay, so that's the what they call arrangements. Inside this logistics also fall the warehousing. So warehousing is actually into logistics management. Because some products cannot ship direct to the customers. You need to actually have some warehouse, but it's probably a bit more expensive because it will add 8 to 10% of product cost. Okay, 8 to 10% of the cost of product is actually coming from warehouse. Okay, cost of products. Why? Because you need to rent out the warehouse. You need to make sure that there is a security and so on. Okay, so it may be expensive, but alternative may be more so. That means you need to have warehouses. Okay, where the fundamental purpose is store goods, and also you can also do some other things. You can consolidate. I mean, you actually accumulate or you centralize the different kind of products into one warehouse, or you break bulk. Break bulk means you actually break it into smaller shipment sizes rather than big volume. You break down into smaller volume for distribution purposes. For distribution purposes, or you can also have cross docking. Cross docking is actually you don't actually warehouse it. You actually have immediate transfer from one. I think we talked about it last semester, right? When you talk about facility layout, you must have cross docking. I mean, when one truck arrives, it is actually probably broken down and distributed into the other trucks. Okay, it's just a place in which you're going to ensure distribution. Okay. And the other one is channel assembly. Channel assembly is treating distributors like manufacturing partners rather than distributors. For example, PCs, okay? Finished good is actually being, it's given to different, different distributors, okay? So channel assembly. But basically, warehousing is part of logistics and it's also very important and it is costly to the organization. So if it is not needed, then probably you don't have to have that warehousing, okay? Okay, third-party logistics. Okay, third-party logistics is outside parties. Okay, when you say third-party outsourcing logistics. So So outsourcing logistics can probably help reduce inventory, reduce costs, and improve delivery, and so on. Okay, and you don't have to actually think about the cost involved in trying to think about your own, logistics. What do you call a department? You can once the product is ready to be delivered, the company will actually let the third-party logistics provider to handle. Okay, and they may provide warehousing, assembly, testing, shipping, customs. So this is third-party logistics activities, right? From warehousing, assembly, testing, shipping, customs. I mean, you don't have to consider, for example, if you export to another country, you need to be worried about customs. But in third-party logistics, you don't have to actually bother or not bother. You don't have to think about that. For example, FedEx do all the custom clearance for you. FedEx or DHL when they ship out the component or the product. Okay, so this is part of logistics. Okay. Any questions? Anything that you probably want to add? That probably you have some experience or some knowledge about third-party logistics. Any questions? No? Okay. So some other things that probably is also related to supply chain is distribution management. I'm not going to, this is actually theoretical. Okay, there is this theory of response times depending on the number of facilities. Of course, the number of facilities will, if you have more distribution or more warehouse, you have actually a shorter response time. And depending on your facility costs, inventory costs, and transportation costs, you can actually find, your total logistics. I mean, depending on the number of facilities to have. You have too many facilities, the total logistic cost is very high. But if you, what is the minimum logistic cost? How many facilities is required? So this is kind of analysis for us to make when we want to decide, okay, the distribution channels that probably will have to minimize our total logistics cost. So I'm going to just skip that distribution management. Okay, one important thing in supply chain management is ethics and sustainable issue ethics. Think about this. You're dealing with a lot of players, okay, suppliers. When you deal with supplier, imagine you are the purchasing officer. What are you exposed? What kind of challenges are you being exposed when you actually deal with suppliers trying to negotiate price, trying to negotiate delivery, trying to negotiate quality issues? What are the challenges? What are the things that probably you need to be careful of? What's personal ethics in terms of what are the challenges? What do you think are the challenges? You deal with suppliers and they come and negotiate your price, okay? So what are the ethical issues, personal ethics that you have to be wary of, to be careful of? Jacob?
When we purchase from the supplier?
Yeah?
What is the situation? you are talking about.
So when you are involved in supply chain,
Okay.
and when you're, for example, you are the manager for purchasing.
Manager. Okay.
Purchasing, because you're involving in trying to select suppliers, buy the
Okay,
products.
I know that. I have personally that experience also. Like I was working in a company and I was dealing with a tea company, a tea garden. That company has the tea garden, and we have to purchase a lot of things for tea garden in a year, like sheds, like seeds, seedlings, and like fertilizer and pesticides, weedicides, and many things. Okay. Then the company is the supplier company in our country sometimes offer you benefit personally to push their product in your company.
So you're exposed to, so do you become, the customers become very close to you, they become your friends, they ask you to go out for lunch, they go ask you to, they give
right,
you,
exactly.
They give you incentives so that
incentives.
So you have to be careful, because that
is the ethical question. I have to ensure the best quality product for the company, the minimum price. These two.
So even they bring you for lunch, you won't be changed with your decision.
Right. That's
That's very important, because you're not going to jeopardize the company's interest, because
that is the ethical question. I must.
You're working for the organization. If you to protect you must not be involved in briberies. You must not involve in all these kickbacks. So of course there are companies with very strict rules on the value of the gifts that you get. So if the gift is less than probably like 100 ringgit or 50 ringgit, or like less than 1,000 yen, then okay, you can take it as a gift. But if they said, no, I'm going to give you a brand new car, so it's probably that that is
the supplier must have the intention to earn that money from you. If they offer a car to you, then they have also an intention to earn that money through you.
Okay, so it is very very difficult issue. Okay, what about ethical behavior regarding the environment? So we have, for example, the company that you deal with produces materials, from the production, which actually damage the environment. So when you visit the factory and you do the assessment, are you going to put into the report, or you're not going to put it in the report that this company is actually damaging the environment? So
also another issue here is, like in the apparel industry, the buyer visit the factory. Buyers frequently visit the factory. To check the
quality,
environment also.
Environmental,
quality of production and everything. Environment also, there is ethical issue. They always advise, like H&M is a buyer of an apparel industry. They physically visit that factory and they check every situation of working, even though whether the place is very good for working for the worker or not. Also, they
will also interview the workers to find out from the workers.
They also interview the worker and whether the factory is following the sustainability all issues or not.
So this is the it is a difficult issue. This is a difficult situation. For example, countries like developing countries like Malaysia or even Bangladesh, sometimes the environmental standards are really not really very, very high compared to Japan, for example.
Of course, but still now, if you want to exist in this industry, within the competition, you must have to actually follow the buyer's requirement. Otherwise, you cannot, especially to the apparel industry nowadays.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mean that it will change. It's slowly going to change.
Yeah,
Even
it's
in
slowly
China
going to change
also.
here. Yeah.
Even in China as well. What about child labor? You know,
This issue is actually nowadays it is totally solved. It is totally solved, especially in some industries.
Right.
If you are doing involved with the apparel industry, especially in Bangladesh, you cannot use any child labor. Then you cannot get any buyer order. You cannot get, because they will check it strictly.
Strictly, they will
The
check
buyers
it.
are world-class buyer, like Gaps, like H&M, like Mark and Spencer, like Adidas, like Nike, and every buyers are there. So you have to follow
the
issues,
regulations.
regulations. Otherwise, they will not give you the order. And even after giving order, if they will find any issues regarding that, they will cancel the order. Then you will face a very big amount of loss. So you must have to fulfill.
Okay, so the sustainability in supply chain, there is a concept called reverse logistics. Reverse logistics means you have to actually return back your products to the manufacturer when it is ending life. Have you heard of circular economy? Circular economy is actually the sustainability of the economy in terms of using the previous products.
Right, exactly.
So it is, all products can be recycled, remanufactured, reused. So this is called the circular economy. Circular,
and that is very helpful for the environment also. That
exactly.
Is
it will help sustainability, but the progress is actually quite slow. Quite slow. It is.
There is.
But it's moving. Okay, there is the Institute for Supply Management Principles and Standards, which actually have these principles. Okay, that means promoting and upholding responsibilities of to one's employer in terms of protecting the company's interests, avoid perceived impropriety, conflicts of interest, and so on. So we have to know that these principles about free, fair trades, and also no buyer selection or supplier, no corruption, and so on. Okay, so these are things that probably must be upheld. Okay. And there are ethical standards in terms of perceived impropriety, prevent the intent and appearance of unethical or compromising conduct in relationship, conflict of interest, ensure that any personal, business, or any entity do not conflict with the lawful interests of your employer. So you must, work for your organization and not betray the other organization. Okay. Influence, issues of influence, avoid behavior that may negatively influence or appear to influence decisions relating to supply chain. Okay, supply chain, supply management decision, appointment of suppliers, dealing with problems. So these are ethical standards that is established. Okay. And other things, responsibility to employer, supplier, and customer relationship. These are ethical and sustainability issues that must be followed. Okay, I'm not going to explain all this. And also, this is what I talked just now. So, sustainability in supply chain, return or reverse logistics. Return or reverse logistics. So, sending back products for resale, repair, reuse. In UK, there is end of life law. End of life. Have you heard of it? End of life. For automotive, that means you have to actually return back to the manufacturer. For computer products, end of life. The manufacturer must buy back. But of course, in developing country, we don't have this end of life law yet for certain products. That will actually, when in engineering, we now have design for example, remanufacturing. Then you design, you have to think about the end product. Can it be recycled and reused or remanufactured? We do not design product just until it's end of life. You put it in the what do you call waste. No, we have to plastics recycle. You know, many things have to be you have to think about the disposal. So this is the circular economy, closed loop supply chain. You proactively design supply chain, but this is on supply chain only, but there are other things, economy and so on. So proactive design of supply chain that optimize forward and reverse flows. Okay, there are companies today that actually not manufacture automobile, but actually dismantle. So you need to have factories that actually dismantle cars and, you know, separate out into valuable materials. There are valuable materials also, you know, in computer. There are gold, there are, you know, silver that actually can be recover. You can recover back the precious metals that exist in, you know, products. Right. So this is sustainability. It's a big issue in sustainability. There's a lot of many other issues in what they call sustainability. So some of the issues relating to forward logistics and reverse logistics. So this is another, you know, big area of establishing reverse logistics, returning back the product to the manufacturer or recycle and so on. Okay, so this is what I'm going to talk about actually. When we have all this, you know, supply chain and so on, so we need to have some kind of measurements. We need to actually have supply chain performance measurement. There are a few ways in which supply chain managers measure how good the supply chain performance is. Number one is assets committed to inventory. So this is given by this formula. Percentage invested inventory is total inventory investment divided by total assets. So first of all, you need to know the percentage invested in inventory. How much of your, you know, total inventory against your total assets. Okay. For example, in this case, Home Depot has this amount of inventory and their total assets is this 44.4 billion. So in terms of percentage invested in inventory, this Home Depot, okay, has 25.7% of its inventory invested in inventory, which is actually quite a huge amount. Quarter, you know, 1/4 of its, you know, value of inventory. But when you can find values for inventory, you can calculate how much, you know, one material, kind of material that you have and multiply by the price, you know, the so-called the value, okay, the value that you actually have. It's called investment because you still have it. So if you look at the industry standards, okay, when you talk about manufacturing, 15% average inventory as a percentage of total assets. That means most of manufacturing, at least 15% is value inventory out of the total assets, okay? But look at here. What does he say? Toyota only has 5% of inventory. Why? Because they have TPS, Toyota Production System. They have JIT,
right.
They have Kanban. You know, have you heard of Kanban? Yeah, probably you have Kanban.
Kanban, I hear.
Yeah.
We'll cover this in the end of this. You know, there is one chapter on Lean. Okay, Kanban, and they have value streams. Coca-Cola 2.9%. Well, because they They make to sell. They really, it's fast moving. And then we talk about inventory turnover after this, okay? So for wholesale, 34%. Restaurants, very low, of course, because restaurants, you don't keep a lot of inventory. It's perishable. You know, all the food actually get rotten very easily. You don't keep them, okay? Retail, Home Depot, for example, 25%, but average 20%. So this is the inventory as a percentage of total assets. So you can calculate. That's why they do inventory stock calculation every year in a company. They take stock. Another method, so that is the first one, which is actually the average percentage invested inventory. The other one is inventory turnover. So inventory turnover is actually cost of goods sold divided by inventory investment. Okay, so inventory investment. We'll have an example after this. So cost of goods sold is actually cost to produce the goods. So this is in accounting. Accounting, you can find the cost of goods sold. And inventory investment is the, the amount that actually kept as inventory, whether in the system, okay? It is the average of several periods, for example, beginning plus ending divided by 2, or even the ending inventory, okay? So if you look at this example from PepsiCo Incorporated, so go to annual report. Go to annual report because all annual reports will have inventory. Am I right? All annual reports will have inventory. You can in the form of, for example, raw material inventory, cost of work in process, and finished goods. So this is the cost of goods sold is 14.4 billion, okay, and inventory is 1.69 billion. So the inventory turnover is 14.2 divided by 1.69 is actually 8.4, okay, which is it good or bad? Do we have the answer here?
I think it's good.
It's good. Okay, it's good.
Inventory turnover is 8.4.
Because there is the question, if the cost of goods sold is 10.8 billion, which is lower, and inventory investment is 0.76, and the turnover is 14.2. So 8.4 versus 14 times turnover. Okay, we need to check that. We need to check that whether a higher number is better or a lower number is better. Anyway, so this is the average annual turnover, inventory turnover for different kinds of company. But it depends on the industry actually. It looks at the industry. You cannot compare computer industry with automotive. So Toyota can compare to Nissan, compared to, and so on. Right. Another measure is weeks of supply. Weeks of supply is inventory investment divided by this annual cost of goods sold divided by the weekly cost of goods sold. Okay, weekly cost of goods sold. So in this case, for PepsiCo, inventory investment is 1.69 billion. The average weekly cost of goods sold is 14.2 billion from the previous data. Okay, same data. So you get 0.273 billion, and so this becomes 6.19 weeks. Okay, weeks of supply, 6.19 weeks. Okay, of course you have to check with other industry. Right, so this is Okay. Can I stop here for a while? Okay. For you to this is only the last the last thing. So just take 5-minute break for you to just take a cup of coffee, and then we'll come back so that I can give you something to do some exercise for this calculation. Okay, so take a 5-minute break so that
Thank
you know.
you.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, let me just share the book. So can you see the book? Can you see the book? Mieru?
Yes, Professor. Let's see.
Yeah, Mas.
So before the break just now, I actually went through this example of the same example here. The inventory turnover, the investment percentage investment in inventory, and also the inventory turnover. There's 3 measures, and also the weeks of supply. So you can actually look at these 3 measures. So before I ask you to do some questions, okay, let me just touch the final part is actually the benchmarking the supply chain. Sorry. Okay. So this is the final part. It's actually benchmarking the supply chain. So we have you can compare with benchmark companies, benchmark firms. What kind of your order fill rate, your order fulfillment lead time, cash to cash cycle, inventory days of supply. So you have this so-called SCOR model. It's not being explained in detail also. You can actually browse the EPICS Supply Chain Council, okay? epics.org. So in the supply chain, what they call operations reference model, SCOR, supply chain operations score, supply chain operations reference model. Okay, so you have all these processes, metrics, and best practices. Because in benchmarking is actually trying to compare between a company, A company and B company within the same industry, or maybe you want to compare between a different industry of a certain process. Okay, so that's why you have all these practices, processes, metrics, and best practices. In terms of plan, the demand, supply planning and management, the source, how do the company identify, select, and manage the excess source, and so on. So all these are actually the model itself, the SCOR model that is used to do the benchmarking. So for example, SCOR model matrix to help companies benchmark performance. For example, the attribute is supply chain reliability. So if you do research on this, okay, if you do research on these benchmarking models, so you must have the attributes, performance attribute, and sample metric. Probably there are many others, many other metric, but this is one of them. Perfect order fulfillment. This is how they calculate the perfect order fulfillment. So perfect order fulfillment is perfect order in terms of quantity, quality, delivery on time, divided by total number of orders. For example, like this lah. You deliver 100 times and you fulfill the order perfectly 95 times. So that is 0.95, 95% perfect, for example. Okay. So that is in terms of reliability. Or the attribute is responsiveness. Okay. So this is given by average order fulfillment cycle, and this is the formula. Supply chain agility. So this is the metric, and so on and so on. Okay, so these are all the measures. Then you benchmark. For example, you get from 1,000 points, you score 800, or you score 500, or you score 600. So this is a kind of what they do when they do benchmarking. Not only for supply chain, for quality management, for any processes, any system that actually being used. It is useful, but it cannot depend 100% because it is just some companies, they just put in the numbers and declare. Yeah? So audit is actually maybe necessary. Audit means you actually assess physically by yourself to actually look at the actual performance. Benchmarking is just a tool. A tool is always a tool. I always believe in that. A tool is always a tool. A tool will never become what you call. A tool is something that helps you. Benchmarking, okay, for example, this SCOR model is a tool for us to do continuous improvement on supply chain. Okay. So you need to actually to recognize that. You need to actually recognize that benchmarking of supply chain, or benchmarking of, for that matter, total quality management and so on. Okay, I just benchmarking to see ourselves. Okay, now I'm showing you the book. Can you see the book?
Yes.
Right. So this is the SCOR model. I want you to, for the rest of this time, for the rest of this period, if you can actually, and this is to be submitted, okay? This is for submission. You must submit this exercise. 11.6 here. Sorry. 11.5. Okay, 11.5. Jacob, see properly, 11.5. Page, automatic correction. Page, automatic. 504. Hi, 504. Question number 11.5. And also page, korekara yatte mite kudasai. And also problem number 11. Soka. 11. 11.7, yes, 11.7.
11.7.
Side height. Okay. So I want you to just,
same
spend,
page number.
Yeah, it's same page number, but my book is a different page. But it's okay. 11.5 and 11.7.
7, okay.
Yeah. So if you can just spend time. If you want to look from my book, also can. Okay, this is can read, can do it from here without opening your book. Okay, so do the first one first here, and tell me the answer in 5 minutes. And submitted. Okay, this is submitted, to be submitted. You can submit with email or in WhatsApp also can. Okay. So the inventory turnover is the cost of goods sold divided by the average inventory, which is this. So it is actually 26,000. Sorry, this one. 26,000 divided by 5,200, which is 5. Okay, so inventory turnover is 5 times. So the weeks of supply is the what do you call cost of goods sold divided by weekly. Okay, weekly cost of goods sold, which is 26,000 divided by 52 weeks, you get 500. And the weeks of supply is 500 divided by 5,200 divided by 500. Cost of goods sold divided by weekly inventory, which is 10.4 weeks. Get me? You understand? So this is the two measures for what we call supply chain. You got it, Jacob?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you can do that also for 11.7. Okay. But in this case, it's already given there, except from the final annual report given in the table. Again, the same thing, inventory turnover, weeks of supply. As here, okay, weeks of supply is given weeks of supply. So you can, but you need to calculate this. How do you calculate the raw materials total value?
Raw materials total value.
So you need to know, you need to find the total value inventory for raw material, but you have 4 parts.
Okay, we have to calculate, add 4 parts together.
Exactly, yeah, you have to find the total
raw material and total work in progress, yes. Total finished goods.
Exactly. So then only you know your total what you call inventory investment. Okay, and you can calculate that. All right. If you want to know, if you want to calculate the average, there is no, there is, you need to know the, you need to know the revenue. You need to know the revenue. Or you need to know the total assets. In this case, it's not given the total assets. That's why you cannot find the average investment in inventory, because you do not know the total assets. So if you have the information of total assets, only you can calculate the percentage investment in inventory. Not like 25% or 30% in the example given. Okay. So I will let you do the 11.7 by yourself. Okay. So I would love to see both of these submitted to me. Okay. In any forms, it's up to you. You can WhatsApp me. You can just take a photo of what you have done and just send it to me, or you can email me. Right, any questions? Any specific questions that probably you want to, to read this case studies, or read this so-called like this ethical dilemma. That's why I asked the question just now. If child labor is an issue, if you read this as a buyer for a discount retail chain, like what you told me just now, Jacob, okay, about the condition of the country. Outrage, you fly to the outsourcing manufacturing facility to find conditions are not quite as clear-cut. Children are chasing, begging for money. When you enter the plant, you observe very clean facility, but many of them appear to be young. So you're talking about, child labor, young people working. You confront the plant manager and explain your firm's strict international sourcing policies, that you are not allowed to source from companies which employ young people. So you demand to know why these girls aren't in school. The manager provides the following response. The truth is that some of these workers may be underage. We check IDs, but the use of falsified records, see? Falsified records. Plus, you don't understand the alternatives. If you shut down this plant, you will literally take off the food for these families. So we are in a dilemma. You know, we try to help poor people, but poor people have difficulties. There are no opportunities. There's no comprehensive welfare system in our country. And this is what I like, you know. I mean, if you, I like, something is dilemma. If you shut down, this girl will be out of street, begging, stealing, prostituting themselves. Your business offers them a better existence. Please don't take them away. So what do you say to this company? Or even the people who are supporting the, the movie star, the media, and the protesters picketing your stores? Is the best option to shut down and try somewhere else? So these are the ethical dilemmas faced by, purchasers all over the world, trying to help and trying to solve social issues, social problems. You know, like 20 years ago, Malaysia was actually being, not only 20 years ago, now also the same thing. Oil palm boycott by Europe. Okay, and recently also US. You know, they accuse us of destroying the forests. No sustainability. So how are we going to develop our country if these countries have this kind of policies? It's very difficult, very difficult. Okay. Or even China trying to move forward with their new technologies. And this world is being ruled by the superpowers. Okay, ethical and difficult issues. Okay, any questions? It's 9:40 already. I know you have classes. I hope you have some ideas of what we are discussing. And I know you have your own opinions. Okay, you have your own opinions. Probably I'll put in the discussion group in Omiji. I'll put this in discussion. What do you think of the control by certain countries on us, on us? It's a bit like you versus us. I've seen this from my from many years, from my younger age until today, how Western has blocked how we develop or dictate. Okay, any questions? Any things? No?
No.
Okay. So please take care of yourself. I'll see you next week if you don't have any questions. So take care, and we have one more week, and then after that we have 1 week break, if I'm not mistaken. Is it break or 1 week Medai Mai festival or something like that? 1 week no class.
Oh, I don't know exactly.
On the 4th or on the 5th. And don't forget, we have also a test coming up. I will discuss probably next week on the test arrangement. So we don't have class on the 4th of November.
4th November, okay.
Okay. Right, so I'll see you next week.
See you next week, Professor.
So in the meantime,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Hi.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.